City Public Library Friends Foundation, which is a role I hold here at the Iowa City Public Library, advocating for and fundraising for the Iowa City Public Library. And we work in partnership with a lot of community events as the foundation, but of course, the library is an incredible partner to all kinds of organizations throughout our community, helping to amplify all the wonderful things happening in our community. So thank you for being here as a part of that. I am joined today by 3 of my friends, and I'm so pleased that they agreed to do this and that the Iowa City Songwriters Festival thought that this would be a nice feature of the festival. And before I introduce them, I want to just tell you a little bit about why I thought this would be an interesting conversation for us to have today. When I think about songwriting myself as a musician, it either happens in a vacuum of myself and my world experience, or it happens in conversation with my bandmates, Nicole Upchurch being one of my bandmates in my band Awful Purdies. And when I thought about what Family Folk Machine is, this intergenerational folk choir, and how it's embraced songwriting as part of its program, empowering its members to think about songwriting, create songs, perform them, have them orchestrated into choral pieces, accompanied by a folk band, and performed for our community, I thought, well, that's a little bit of a different kind of songwriting, right? And I thought it was worth digging into that a little bit further. So to my right, my immediate right, this is Jean Littlejohn. Many years ago, I don't know how we first met, Jean. Someone said we should talk to each other. It's a very Iowa City thing. They said they said we should talk, and I had never heard of a folk choir like this before. And when you told me about it, I thought, it's incredible.
I remember having lunch with you, and we were discussing this, and you were so nice, but you were also very direct. And I remember you looking at me and saying, so what are your credentials for doing something?
Did I really? That doesn't actually sound like me. I don't think anyone needs any credentials usually.
Well, it was a good question. And then, and then Katie invited lots of people, which is why we got off the ground at all. So that was awesome. Thanks, Katie.
So Jean is the director of the group and wrangles the machine, the Family Folk Machine, together. And I actually remember when the conversation around what it should be called, and we thought about this machine kills fascists, Woody Guthrie, and I feel like that kind of was one of the main, like, for me, that's what made the word machine make the most sense, the folk tradition of that.
Yeah, that was great. And then for our 5th anniversary, Jeff Capps, who's here, wrote a song called This Machine that kind of riffs on specifically that angle of our name. I also I felt sure about the name once I looked up the definition of machine. I mean, this sounds stupid, but it actually really affected me. I looked it up in the dictionary, and it said, a device that takes energy and, I should have studied this before I came over, and sort of transforms it into something more useful or something. And I was like, oh, what an interesting thought about community, that we take all our various energies and focus them on something, and it becomes hopefully something useful. So
I love that. I feel like as a songwriter, I sort of feel like a machine. I feel like I'm taking in a bunch of things and then sort of transmuting it, giving it a little bit of order, giving it a little poetry, and trying to figure out how to, push it out into the world.
Yeah,
so,
that makes sense.
So then at the end of the table down here, we have Alma Drake, who, when I said to Alma, is this correct to say that you have a 50-year songwriting history?
Yes.
And because you're only 30 years old, so you
it's
started way before any of us. Yeah.
It's the Merlin effect, living backwards in time. Yeah.
And Alma, can you describe your role with the Folk Machine and a little bit more about your career?
I am the sort of the band wrangler. And songwriter. So my 2 main focuses really are the accompaniment part and the songwriting part, the creative part. And we have what's called the Family Folk Machine Shop, which is a songwriter's workshop that we kind of roll ideas through, and we've produced a lot of songs out of there. But songs have also come from some other individuals that weren't necessarily part of the machine shop. And so really, but the big, the day-to-day kind of work that I do is, I kind of think of it like how the old shaman has the drum, and the drum is the shaman's horse that allows him to transcend into a different reality. And so I have my guitar, and I play the guitar for the singers as they're rehearsing, and it allows them to rise to a higher place where they're all unified in thought, and we're able to create something bigger, and more beautiful because we're together. And I have the honor of being that instrument for them, and it kind of feels to me very, very holy. A very sacred work that I get to do, and I'm so just every once in a while I sit and I just look around at everybody in the room. It's just like, how can I be in a room with people I don't even know that I love this much? Because you can't know everybody in a choir the size of Cincinnati. So
there's 100 members in the last performance of the ish, which it's fluctuated in size over the years. But when I went to the last concert presented at the Englert Theater and saw the size of the chorus and heard what it sounded like to have everybody of a choir of that size singing together. I'm a crier, but I have cried ugly cry at every single one of their concerts, because there's something so beautiful about this intergenerational group of people coming together in song. And one of the things that happens at the concerts is that they feature children both as a part of the larger chorus and then as a subset of the chorus. And that's where Nicole Upchurch comes in. Nicole, what are your credentials?
I think we're all wranglers from what I'm hearing, and machinists. Yes.
In your everyday life, though, you work with children. I always like to say, when I talk about Nicole to people, I say she takes tens of children out into the woods for a whole day, and they explore nature, and she helps them understand the natural world, and also plays music with them and makes art with them, and a nature preschool. So I imagine, having, toilets in the rehearsal space, not having to, figure out how to use the bathroom in the woods is one of the advantages of working with Family Folk Machine.
Potty logs are abundant in this world.
But can you talk a little bit about your life as a musician and a little bit more about your role with Family Folk Machine?
My life as a musician in Iowa City is just a really full, beautiful thing, because I do feel like we shine in that we have a beautiful intergenerational community, and I would like to think that we embrace people who move here and are new musicians. And I was once that person, and I actually went and saw the Awful Purdies. I play with Katie, and I saw their first show before I was in the band. And I went home and played my banjo for 3 hours in the bathroom. Thought, I want to be in a band, so I'm going to move back to Montana and steal that name, Awful Purdies. But so it's been 20 years, and I feel like I found a lot of really wonderful people to collaborate with in this community within my bands, Awful Purdies and the Feralings, as well as just through Family Folk Machine, absolutely, as well. And with my students and with jams that happen in people's homes. It's a really lovely community, and the Songwriters Fest has been just, the cherry on top. So life as a musician. And then you asked me my role with Family Folk Machine, correct?
Wrangling kids.
Wrangling kids. Actually, it's funny that everyone keeps using the word wrangler, because we have a position within the Family Folk Machine called child wrangler.
The kids do not like this term, nor do they like kid shepherd, which I tried. They were like, we are not sheep. They were so offended.
because I wrangle children, I'm okay with it. It's kind of a fun, it's like wrestling and playing in my head. So, but I do that in my day job. So we have teenagers that do the wrangling, and I get to just do the, you know, like the connection and the songwriting. So my role is with the children's programming. In the fall, we do 4 sessions of ukulele instruction, and the age range varies from like 5 to 14 sometimes. I just get those older kids to become mentors in my group, and we wrote a grant. We have ukuleles available to the machine. So in the fall, we do a 4-week session of games and songs, folk songs on the ukulele, and in the spring, we take those skills and we write songs. We do a group song together, and then we do individual songwriting for people who are ready to try that. So,
thank you. So, I think one of the key things to know about Family Folk Machine is this intergenerational piece. Can you, any one of you, can you speak to how you foster that intergenerational piece? Because it's not like, you know, if you're 70 and older, you're over here, and it's everybody standing together. In fact, I was for a few years, I think maybe, or a few sessions, I was in Family Folk Machine with my daughter, and my singing partner was Rose. Rest in peace, Rose. And Rose was a little hard of hearing, and I was taller than Rose, so she would stand on the bleacher one above me and put her head as close to mine as she could so she could hear the notes that I was singing, so we could sing together, and it was a really beautiful thing. And so let's talk about fostering that intergenerational connection. What are some of the programmatic things and some of the ways that you do that?
Well, for me, from a programming standpoint, it's been really helpful because I think activists in the community that advocates for people with disabilities, they always say that, well, what you find policy-wise is that when you introduce something that helps one group, it ends up helping everybody. Maybe you're familiar with that idea. And I have kind of found that to be, there's an analogy with working with kids. So if I'm thinking about a song or something that we might do, if you think about, well, is this best for the kids? Is this the type of world that we want to be building around these kids? Then you're going to end up with the solution that's also best for the adults in most cases. And so that's just been a really helpful sort of heuristic for me with trying to, you know, figure out our direction or what we should be doing or what are the things we need to know about, you know. We do some songs that involve history and anyway, so there's that piece of it. Within our rehearsals, we rehearse with the kids separately part of the time, and then we rehearse all together part of the time. And I have always prioritized working directly with the kids myself to just help foster a sense of their ownership in whatever we're doing, and the idea that they have these competencies with what we're doing, because the ideal of the choir is that each adult and kid, you know, everybody's an equal participant and is equally contributing to the whole. Even though we do have like some songs that I don't teach to the kids, some of the heavier songs sometimes, and the adults sing those by themselves. If a kid is motivated and wants to learn it, then they're free to do that too. And then the kids sing by themselves sometimes as well. But
at the concerts, sometimes the kids are still up there when the adults are just doing a piece, and there's always a couple kids who are like really feeling it. There's, you know, the song spoke to them, they're singing along, and that's a wonderful thing. And I've always appreciated that there's no, I don't sense this like restrictive formality where I was the kid who was wiggling around in the choir, in the church choir, and they were like, "You can't be in choir anymore because you're too wiggly." And so I didn't get to have that experience because I was, I was joking around, I was having too much fun, and I've had a couple favorite kids over the years who have been extra wiggly that have stolen the show and stolen my heart. So I love that, a place for everybody in there.
Yeah.
So Jean and Nicole, Nicole, you're of course working like directly with the kids, and I think Alma, I'll start with you because I know that you've had some really special songwriting partnerships with younger folks in the choir. Could you talk a little bit about songwriting that spans decades?
Well, yeah, one of the first things that I saw when I walked through the door was a song that was written by two of our senior members, Janet and Craig, and one of our youngest. So Janet and Craig are in their 70s, and Orion is, what is he, 11?
He
10,
used to
11?
be 10, so he might be.
He might be 11. Well, he used to be 10, but I think he outgrew that. So Orion, Janet wanted to write a song with Orion. I don't remember how it all evolved, but anyway, they wrote this beautiful song about how singing in a choir is so peaceful and loving and helpful and marvelous for you. And I really, it was an incredibly touching sort of song, and John, I think, did the arrangement. John Reynard, who's our other associate director, did the arrangement for it, and it turned out lovely. And I said, well, you shouldn't have all the fun, Janet, so I'm going to ask Sasha, who is 14, if she wants. I think she might have been still 14 at the time. Maybe. She might not have outgrown that yet. She probably has now. But so I said, I'm going to ask Sasha if she wants to write with me, and Sasha was all kinds of excited, which was very flattering. And so we wrote a song together. I'm going to play it at some point here this morning just to give you an example of what it was. But there's that kind of, and I just recently asked another one of our young members, Morgan, who has an incredible voice, and she's just one of those made of music little people who can kind of do anything. And I asked her if she would like to write with me, and she actually squeaked. So, which was like, I'm still cool.
I think that really speaks to how empowering it is to have this folk machine say to an individual of any age, what you have to say is important, and it's important enough that I'm going to spend time with it. I'm going to spend time with your perspective and your words, and we're going to try to figure out how to sculpt that into song. Yeah. And eventually a choral piece with a live band. I mean, what an incredible thing. I had an experience as a mom in the folk machine where my daughter wrote a song in the bathtub. And she was very newly playing violin. In fact, I think the way Jean helped us have her play violin with the song was that she just played on an open string, but it was the right note.
Well, and I think Tara consulted on that too, so that was really helpful.
Yeah, and so my child went from having this song that we worked on singing in the bathtub together to where she was just didn't understand why it was getting cold and then warm again and like what's happening and trying to explain planets and the solar system and seasons and we settled on just talking about the seasons changing in this song, and she got to perform this piece with her little violin and the kids all singing it, and then eventually she ended up getting to record it. Awful Purdies ended up recording it, and I think she was 6. When she had her first song recorded in this community, and wow.
That's a good song.
What's that?
It's Fall Song.
It's called the Fall
and
Song.
And you can get it through the library's database.
That's true. A little pitch to the Iowa City Public Library's local music project, where with your library card you can explore local music for free, because the library said, you know what, there's not like a Spotify for Iowa City. There should be. But this way, if you're interested in who the musicians are here, with your library card, you can take a look at that archive and start to understand what our music scene is here. So that was a little segue, but it's just a very cool, yeah. It's online. It's an online digital archive of Iowa City music called the Local Music Project, and I'm proud to say that it has been much imitated and replicated throughout the country after being presented at the American Library Association a number of years ago. So it's a pretty neat program. The first album they acquired for that that John Hyatt called me up was actually an Awful Purdies album, and he said, do you think people would say yes to this? And I said, you can have all of our albums for this. And then I went back to the band and said, I said yes to this, by the way. So Nicole, let's talk about the way that you write music with the kids, because I think it's interesting. You've told me about it before.
Yeah, well, the group songwriting, so first off, I feel like I have to paint the picture. It's Sunday, and the kids have chosen to be there. So my job is to keep it fun, primarily, and help them connect to one another and learn each other's names and feel safe, right? So that is like the first layer of what we're doing. We usually do songwriting in the spring. We do a group song and then the individual song. So the group song is really meant for the newest songwriters of our group that might not even really understand general structures of songs, or it's to get them over that hump of the first song so they can say, I wrote a song, and be part of that. And I listen deeply to what the kids are saying, sometimes the year before even, and kids have the most authentic language. So if they say something that strikes me as interesting or funny, and I know that if I bring this back, it's gonna spark something, I'll write like a little chorus or something, or begin a verse, and bring something to the table because we have to finish the song in 4 sessions. And again, they're all choosing to be there on a Sunday, and next Sunday they might have soccer. So it can vary who's there. So I have to make it very fluid and fun, and I do it mostly, our youngest students, I usually play games the first session, and they don't even realize it, but we're finding common ground so that we can write together. So we play games to find common ground. I'm thinking of an example of Don't Yuck My Yum was a song we did. Was that just last year?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
last spring.
Don't Yuck My Yum. So I brought a little chorus to them, and we played a game to figure out, I think it was Double Ditto, to figure out what we all had in common of what we enjoyed. And we definitely explored the senses. So all the verses there were 4 groups of 5 or 6 kids that would agree upon things that they all really loved, and wrote that verse. And what I loved about that the most, so we have Craig Clockey sits in, lovingly called Pappy, and he is so good with the Morgans. Oh, yes. Like the kids that are getting older who are also just have a ton of experience, they just hang out with Pappy and like play instruments and all of it. All of the instruments. So there's kind of something for everyone, whether they're a beginner or they're just a child who's been in the program for a long time and needs a little more. But yeah, in the end, we've got a chorus and 4 verses, and they are definitely coming up with the melodies themselves, which is so fun to hear how they'll sing it. So that was the process last year, but sometimes I'll walk in there with an idea that I think is going to resonate, and if it doesn't, I just throw it out the window and we start fresh. So it is definitely a creative endeavor to work with children when you're doing songwriting and trying to get them all excited. The individual at the same time. So that's the group songwriting. Am I talking too much? Should
No,
I
that's
talk
great.
about?
Actually, some of the things the kids agreed on, I have the lyrics to Don't Yuck My Yum right here. They love the smell of fresh mint. They love to craft a mug. They like a good slice of pizza. I'm agreeing with everything. This song is, I'm 100 on the same page. And to give a good friend a hug. Well, it may not sound fun to you. Don't yuck my yum. Could we cue that song up? And I think Bond is going to be able to turn the lights down so we can see that for a minute. So you can get a little taste of what the machine looks like in action.
All right, while they're getting ready, I've had the privilege of working with this group of kids to write some songs this spring. And we landed on a song called Don't Yuck My Yum, because we know there are many things to like, and we gotta make space for everybody to enjoy what they enjoy, right? So it's called Don't Yuck My Yum.
That's Pappy.
Don't yuck my yum. Don't yuck my yum. Trying to have fun. Don't yuck my yum. Don't yuck my yum. Don't yuck my yum. Don't yuck my yum. When I'm trying to have fun. Don't yuck my yum. Don't yuck my yum. We can like different foods and we can be in different moods, so there's no need to be rude. Don't yuck my yum. They're so cute. Oh my gosh. As you can see, audience participation is a big part of
It is.
Family Folk Machine. There's always lyrics printed in the programs, acknowledgement of who's collaborated on creating a song, and in the case that there is a cover of a song, there's usually someone who, before the song is presented, talks about why was the song chosen, what does it mean maybe to that individual who's announcing the song to the audience, and it's just I think a really nice way to acknowledge songwriting in general. We're calling out the names of the folks who have contributed to the songbook. And I think it's really interesting. We're here to talk about songwriting, so we're talking about original things, but I think when you choose a song for this group, that sometimes they're not necessarily maybe something that somebody would say, oh, this is a folk song, or, but I think of folk music kind of in a wider expanse as well. I like to think of the songbook as not being exclusive and really like how many voices can we bring into it. So every time you guys include an artist or a song, I say, great, good. Now they're in it too, and and they were never out.
Cool.
That was so fun. I'm glad we could share that. So I want to talk a little bit about the way that we get to actually arranging a song for a group of this size. So you see that there's a folk band that's down in the pit there at the Englert. Sometimes there's a musician on stage like Nicole had brought up. You've got the whole chorus, the intergenerational choir. So can we just speak a little bit to that? How does that work? And I think perhaps when I asked you what your credentials were back in the day, Jean, my thought might have been, well, that sounds like a really cool idea. I don't think I would be qualified to do that. What kind of credentials would someone need? Like what kind of, so can you talk a little bit about your background and what you bring to the table and how that works?
I guess the nerdiest thing I bring to the table is that I have an advanced degree in music theory, which is way more useful than maybe it sounds. So anyway, it maybe is kind of basic from a music theory perspective, but that type of study is helpful actually when you're writing for choir, and helpful in thinking about how the different parts of a musical texture maybe work together. I don't know, to a lot of people, music theory is a sort of bad word, but
if you're taking,
I believe in it.
If you're taking a song that's like, I'm thinking about the song Hoping Machine that was a part of that Woody Guthrie project, where Woody Guthrie's family took lyric that had never been put to song, and then Jay Farrar took Hoping Machine and created a song. But it wasn't a choral song. It was a recording of Jay singing
Yeah.
Hoping Machine, right?
I mean, he had some backup singers, but that's a really interesting example to bring up because that song sits in a small group of the songs that we've done in the folk machine, but that maybe were kind of a stretch to do for choir. Like some songs are easy and really lend themselves to multiple parts at once, and others you have to really, well, wrangle, I guess, to use that word. Especially like that song, or we've done quite a few songs by local hero Greg Brown. And if you know Greg Brown's body of work, you might know that he never sings a song the same way twice, and that his rhythms, well, and even his tunes can be very like improvisatory feeling. And that sort of beautiful creative flexibility that he has is very challenging for the would-be arranger. You have to decide on a single way it's going to go, get everybody to do it together in a way that doesn't sound stilted, because if you just completely square it up and make it easy for everybody to sing together, it no longer is going to even sound like the same song. So you have to make a whole bunch of little decisions to try to help it sound natural and yet allow everyone to sing it at once. And that Hoping Machine song, I mean, we love it. We've done it a couple different ways. The first time we did it, Jeff Capps, who's here, played guitar and sang most of it just with Tara, and the choir just came in a little bit on one chorus part. But we did it again recently, and I expanded the amount of material that the choir was singing because, you know, all that effort was worth it because it's just such an inspiring song. It's incredible, you know. Don't let anything knock the props out from under you. Don't let any earthly calamity knock your dreamer and your hoping machine out of order, is what this song is saying. So this acknowledgement that the world is sometimes buffeting you, but you've got something inside that you can hold on to. And I'm like, yeah, that's a message I want to bring to our kids, like my single criterion that I use. And so it's worth it to try to figure out how to make that work in the choir.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did, and I think I've personally benefited from your expertise when I've written music for musical theater and said I have a song that I can play on my guitar that now needs to be a choir piece for a piece of musical theater. Jean, help, Jean, and Jean has, I've walked away with sheet music as a result of that I could hand to a theater production and they could then perform it. And so that's a really incredible skill. You're also up there conducting. You're not only conducting the choir, you're in communication with the leadership of the folk band that is there. And you're hyping up the crowd and getting everybody in the audience singing along and making sure that they know when their part is coming up in the program to sing along with the words. And do you just sleep for 3 days afterwards? That seems like a lot.
It is a lot, but it's also the most fun. So.
Yeah. And Alma, can you talk a little bit about the way that the music comes together for the folk band piece of this?
I have been able to attract some pretty amazing musicians into our midst. And so it really is just a matter of sitting down and playing through it and saying, this is the feel, here you go, and allowing it to happen kind of organically. But every once in a while there will be something, and we'll say, this song has been done in this other way many, many times, but we are going to do it in this other way, and it's going to be cool. And they all kind of look at me like, you have two heads right now. But then we do it, and it ends up being, one example of that would be Jean's arrangement of Hard Rains Are Gonna Fall, which is completely different from what you've probably ever heard that song in any way. It's so stately and powerful, and I mean, it's obviously it's an incredible song in to begin with, so it's got good legs, but what she brought to that song was just astonishing. And so then the band sits and says, wow, okay, and it just gels. When you get really great musicians. I mean, we've got, well, you can't see him anymore, but Uncle Ed, Ed English, who plays with Beaker Brothers, came to play bass with us. Christine Mode came to play bass with us. We've got a guy named Geb Thomas who is just, here you go, and he just does it. He's a great musician. We've got Lori Haig on drums, who's a Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee 2 years ago, I think, 3. And then we have Pappy, who plays anything and everything. And then then you have me. But so but it's just been really amazing to have that kind of freedom to just say, I trust these people to know exactly what they're doing, and that I can say, I want you to play it more purple with a little flame of perhaps marigold, and then let's bring in the fairies on this part, and they all go, yeah, and it happens, and it's like, those fairies were great. I loved them. They were perfect. And they all understand me. We all understand each other. And it just becomes this, this way. Gina and I spend a lot of time. I mean, this summer, oh my gosh, we spent a lot of time on the current session. And
also continuing this fall.
Yeah.
Continuing on Monday.
I mean, we just, yeah, it's been like crazy.
We're working on a big project, and it's been a lot more collaborative than.
Yeah.
Also, since I interrupted anyway, Alma skipped a step, which is they make these killer charts for the band because they know how to talk band language, which helps everything.
Yeah, the charts. Yeah, the charts, the Nashville charts, they call them. And so that keeps everybody on the same page.
And the fairies.
And the fairies and the marigolds. And they're watching, the fairies are watching over the shoulder to look. But so it's very, it's pretty organic, but every once in a while, we'll do something, then we'll all kind of look at each other and go, huh, that worked, you know? And after this concert, Pappy said to me, is there any reason we couldn't be a band? And I said, none that I can think of. In fact, it would be cool to do all of these original songs like a band would do them. And he's like, I am so in. And Lori's like, I'm so in. And Ed's like, I'm so in. And so it was just immediately a thing. So we're doing that. February 26th. We're doing that at the James, so.
I'm writing that down right now. Well, and then over on this right side of there's a string section.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's a whole other piece.
We've had a horn
brings
section
the whole
too.
thing into this like beautiful soaring place that complements everything. Can you talk so they just show up and they just play without charts? Is that how it works?
Well, so we used to have my kid Sebastian, and he actually would improvise on a lot of the songs. But when we have multiple string players that have to like play together, I usually write out parts for them in a more orchestral fashion, so that just to keep everybody coordinated. But yeah, it's been fun over the years to have a whole variety of. Sometimes we bring in professional players, and sometimes we have kids from the group, and sometimes we have adults from the group. We've got 2 adult viola players right there in the pit on that sign, or at this moment in the stage, in the concert flow. So we hope in the Folk Machine is that each person can find sort of their edge for growing, where even if they come in with a lot of musical experience, they can find some sort of thing they can do that's new for them or that helps them keep growing musically. And then other people are growing just by being there at all, because we're a non-auditioned ensemble, and we've had quite a few people who say they got kicked out of choir in the past or told not to sing, and which seems like a crime against humanity. But anyway, yeah.
Well, I'm definitely of the. People will say, "Oh, you're a singer. I'm not a singer. I don't sing. No one should hear me sing," and I always say, "Well, that's a terrible thing to say to yourself." I mean, I actually do not care what someone's voice sounds like. I care that if singing brings them joy, they should do it,
That's
right?
what we're
Like,
all about.
That's what it's all, and that's what I love. I love that it's a non-audition choir. You're not going to walk in and they're like what happened to me in high school, because I had a deep voice, and I would have to have sung with the boys. They said, you can't be here, and you need to stop auditioning. And it was a message that really, it could have been done one of two things. It could have destroyed music for me, but because I have a rebel spirit, I thought, I'll prove you wrong. I love this. I love singing. So I love that you guys aren't turning anyone away, and everyone is welcome. And one of the things I love at your concerts is your featured soloists, and it's voices of all different walks of life, ages, and different command over people's own voices. You can sometimes hear that waver in someone's voice. Someone might go a little bit out of tune. It doesn't matter. That person is stepping up to the microphone, and they're giving it all they've got, and they're singing. And instead of it being this zone where we're judging people against some idea of perfection, we're instead saying all voices are welcome and everyone is here. So if you want to cry your brains out, go to a Family Folk Machine concert and enjoy
And laugh
and
sing.
laugh.
All the things.
But I think that might be why I cry at the concerts, because I'm so happy to see humanity showcased in all ways, and all voices being heard. And so let's talk about that social, emotional, creative growth a little bit. Can you speak to some of the ways you've seen people grow, people change, people over time, or even like in a session? Do you have any little stories like that?
Yeah. There's I won't name a name because I don't know, it's her story to tell, not my story to tell, but we do have a member that was very, very, very shy, and started taking ukulele lessons and joined the choir, and started writing songs, just because I think the Awful Purdies came and did that songwriting session with the choir back in, was it 2017? And she kind of went, I can do this, and started writing songs, and then joined a songwriters group that my friend Chris Eck and I had started, and really started writing more and more songs, and just sort of blossomed into this amazing songwriter who's one of my favorite co-writers. And I, in fact, frequently say, Susan, we need to talk. You know, I have an idea that needs your input. And so just watching this very shy person go from this kind of, I'm terrified to sing in front of people, I'm really nervous about putting myself out there, to this person who writes these amazing songs and is able to sing in, on a stage in front of 500 people and be okay. That has been an amazing transformation, and that's just been the power of music and expression, and being able to get her story and her thoughts into the world in a way that satisfies that need, that creative need for her. And so that's a huge story of transformation. And then there are so many kids that have grown up through the folk machine that have become amazing musicians and people. So, I mean, yes, we have many stories. Go ahead, Jean.
Last winter, I was just basically a cookie and cake and lasagna making machine for a group of teenagers in my house, including Nicole's daughter, who grew up in the folk machine, and my daughter, who their friends were all getting together and playing guitar and singing all winter long, and it was like a dream come true as a folk musician to have my house full of youth, the youth playing music. And I was just like, I will bribe you with food, so you keep playing music in my home. And I think that is, to me, a testament of what it's like to be a part of this world, where you see a long, cold, dark winter as an opportunity to create warmth and community and making music together. So
Yeah,
so
and
thanks
we're
for
singing
that.
2 songs in our program this fall that the aforementioned Susan wrote with Alma. So Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should I play this song?
I would love it if you played that song.
That I wrote. So Sasha Jakob is I think 15 now. We decided to write a song about self-love because the theme of the concert was love.
Last spring, yeah.
Just love. And so there were lots of songs about love of community. There were love of, the land, love of a person, love of a tree, love of whatever. I mean, we had all these different, but we didn't have any songs about loving the self and how hard that is. And she was so insightful about some of the struggles that we have and some of the things that we're told, particularly as young women. And I'm just going to sit here and do this because I need the words.
Those of you who are here who sang this song, please pipe up and participate. That'd be great. And I'll come back to you.
So we're doing it a step for family folk machiners. We're doing it a step lower. So take the capo off your throat for this one.
Oh my gosh, a throat capo.
Yeah.
It's really, it's a really complicated idea. I'm not sure what to do with that.
We're going a step down. So you sopranos just kind of relax a little bit. You call me out when I'm hating on myself. You lift me up when I'm tearing myself down. You remind me that I'm worthy of my own love, and I can be my own light when darkness surrounds. You got to know what feels like love, so you know it when you find it. Love has to start from within, has to grow up strong and wild, so it can go out in the world. Starting now, I'm gonna treat myself better, learn to love me like you love me. I call you out when you're hating on yourself. I lift you up when you have yourself on the floor. So easy to see it from the outside, but invisible when it comes to the mirror. You got to know what looks like love, so you don't end up blinded. Love has to start from within, has to grow up strong and wild, so it can go
I still remember the first time I heard Alma sing, and I went, "Wow, that voice! You've got such a great voice. I love hearing you sing. Thank you for playing that. And what a beautiful song. So collaboration between a 13-year-old.
I think she was 14 at the time.
It's always up for debate. That's the weird part is we keep aging, you know, if we're lucky.
Well, and it's amazing. And so Christine Mode is a bassist that played with us, and they're very, they're living in Boston now. They've lived in Nashville, and they've done records and really been out on the circuit and touring. And her stories, or their stories of discrimination and of just crap, are the same as my stories. We tell the same stories because that hasn't changed. And so Sasha writing this song, she's telling me the same stories about how women are treated in music and how women are treated in life. And it's like, you know, but this does not, and I'm 60 years old, not 30 actually. Thank you though. But I'm 60 years old, and this person who's, you know, just turned 30 is telling me the same stories that I have, and this person who's 14 has the same stories. And just the idea that these three generations are unified through that struggle of what it is to be a woman in the music business and what it is to be a woman in America are like, wow, you know, that is tough stuff. So just being able to sit down and write this with her and really helped her process some of struggle and some of that, okay, here's how I need to deal with this. And for me, it was very healing in a way, too. I mean, just grateful to have that opportunity to have those conversations. And,
I think what we've really touched upon in this conversation today, too, is finding that common ground. I mean, sometimes if we're just writing with ourselves, right, we have to be like, what does this have to do with this? Because they both keep showing up in this creative process of songwriting. And then when we're working with other people, we have to find that common ground. Nicole does it through games with the kids. You're doing it through having authentic conversations intergenerationally with different people who have experienced different, you know, some of the same things throughout time. And when I think about, was the Awful Purdies project, the Family Folk Machine, the first time that you did songwriting in the Folk Machine?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so Jean came to Nicole and my band, Awful Purdies, and said, the Family Folk Machine Choir really wants to write songs. And this was 2016, 2017? Something like that. And we wrote a grant to the state of Iowa, and they gave us money to do this project, and it was just incredible, and it culminated in a performance of these songs at the Iowa Arts Festival on the main stage, which was a really beautiful experience. But what led up to that, I remember the very first session, our cellist, Katie Roche, kind of came up with the way for us to sort of sort us into groups of people who were interested in different things, different themes, different ways of engaging in songwriting. And surprise, surprise, I ended up in the political songwriting group. And we wrote some really great anti-war anthems and some railing against the system anthems.
And surprise, surprise, I worked with people who were interested in nature.
Yes, yeah. And Kate worked with children, and one of the songs they came up with was listing kind of different treats that animals like when you give to them, and then how happy the animals are. And it's the cutest song ever. Because I mean, yes, there should be a song about that, like giving your pets treats. That there should be a song about that. It's a wonderful thing. And we found ourselves as individuals within Awful Purdies having this new group of people to guide and empower and feel empowered by in that process. And I think we thought, okay, 5 groups, maybe 5 songs. Maybe we'll get 5. So maybe we'll get 5 songs out of it. You know, like we were just like, let's, you know, I don't remember what our actual goal was, but it wasn't quite as lofty as what we ended up with, which was a lot of songs and a lot of really, really great songs. Everything from a song just about having a single tree capture your attention, and just contemplating that beautiful single tree like I mean, I would never have thought to write a song like that, you know, singing about giving peanut butter and slices of bologna to your dog, you know, and so everybody showed up for that process in the way that they were able to, and I think I'm as a proving ground for, can this work with a group this large? It's morphed and changed over time, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and it was a great example of something I really try to do with the folk machine, even though it's quite scary, which is think of projects that seem impossible and then just start doing them and see what happens. We've done this over and over, and we're doing it again this fall.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That's how I like to dream too. I like to say, well, what's the whole dream? You know, what's it look like if it's absolute max, you know? And then across, you know, so you aim for that, and then along the way, you have to make some concessions, and maybe it's not as realistic, you know, to do this thing.
But you end up somewhere interesting that you couldn't see when you started. So that's good.
Yeah, and it's and it also, you know, with that kind of approach too, you're scaring yourself a little bit. You're saying, okay, well, I'm going to dive into some unknown. I'm going to dive into some territory that's not as familiar. I think some of the best things I've gotten to do in life, which on that short list is that collaboration with Family Folk Machine, because I learned so much about how to, and I think this is what you all do every day, that when you work with the choir, I learned so much about, well, how much does it really matter, this little thing I'm clinging to about this song that we're working on together? You know, I know Nicole and I had a bunch of conversations in the finalizing of the songs. We both had things that we felt really strongly about as musicians. And then ultimately both said, actually, it's more important that this person who's brand new to songwriting gets this piece that they think is important. And so as a teacher or mentor or guide, that's actually not my role. My role is to bring them into the process and embrace that and empower that. And that's a beautiful thing. Yeah. We have a little bit of time left here to do some questions. And we have a microphone over there. This is Cammie over here. Cammie works with me at the Iowa City Public Library Friends Foundation, and Cammie's going to run the microphone around so that we make sure we ask questions into the microphone, because this is being live. There's a live feed of this out there, and then there's going to be an edited version of this. Oh yeah, by the way, we're live. Hi. Hello world. So that way, if you ask the question into the microphone, the people watching worldwide will be able to hear the questions. So does anyone have any questions? We have a question in the bag.
2 questions. Yay!
Hello, I've got 2 questions, which is really cheeky. I'm just going to do it anyway. You don't have to answer both of them. First one is, if you were going to share this model to replicate for another community, I'm really curious to know, like, the nuts and bolts of it, the funding. Like, you have a lot of musicians on the stage there, and my budget spreadsheet is going wild. Can you tell us a little bit about how, you know, the pragmatics, the nuts and bolts, about how you make this magic happen? And just so that it could be replicated, it would be really interesting to know. And the second question relates to the intergenerationality of the project. Over in Europe, in the UK, I have a friend who did a beautiful research project about a dying language and using songwriting to bring older members of the community who were speaking a language that was dying out to write songs with younger members of the community to help pass that language on. And I was just wondering, I don't know, obviously I'm a stranger to these parts, but I don't know if there's skills, it may not be language, but is there a way of using that songwriting of the older generation with the younger generation to pass skills on as well? Is that something that you've ever done? Or could it be a wing of the project? I don't know. I just wanted to let you know about that lovely project that happened. No,
that's a great idea. Thanks for sharing that. Let's remember that. That's a good idea.
Push safe.
I mean, I think I've heard, I remember even when I was a kid, people doing, as a school assignment or something, to do an oral history project with maybe a family member who was your grandparent or great-grandparent, and it seems like you could do something similar with songwriting pairs that focused on history, if not on language, but either one seems cool. Yeah. That sounds really neat.
Magic is the answer to your first question.
Yeah, the nuts and bolts question is, could be a very long story, but we'll do the short version. We started the folk machine based on a couple choirs that my family participated in when we moved to Boston for 2 years. And so I already had in mind kind of this intergenerational model and various things about how they worked there that helped me tremendously when we first got the thing going. And the other thing that helped tremendously is that when we started the group, someone suggested I talk to the staff at the senior center, which is right down the street here. And they, at the time, were looking to expand their intergenerational programming. And they said, yes, welcome, come meet here. And so at first, we didn't have any money at all, and we were just part of their programming, and nobody got paid. And we had some like very small membership dues for the singers, which now I can't even remember how we worked that all out at the beginning. But without the support of the senior center and all the things the staff there helped us with, and like they have a copy machine and they have a place we can rehearse. So it would have been a much more difficult time getting things going without that like structural support. And we had quite a few people who were excited about the project, and so came and worked with us for free, including Jeff Capps playing guitar for us at the beginning. And after 5 years, we had grown and we incorporated as a nonprofit. And I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to mess around with like paperwork and all the headaches of running an organization. But some people kind of talked me into it, but then I realized that it was key to everything. So yeah, we haven't looked back. And since then, we've just kind of grown the organization. And we, after we're done here, some of our previous concert programs are over here. We've gotten to a place of making these like beautiful concert programs with advertisements and things like that. And so these different ways of bringing in money. And so now we actually like pay our staff and pay our band, not the way we should, but so it's really been an incremental process, and you probably have to work from whatever your own like situation is and look around and figure out what your resources are. I know the choirs we were in Massachusetts charged lots more money for registration, and one of our missions has been to keep our registration fees quite low and to make them optional for people who can't pay, or we have people who pay a reduced rate, because for us that access piece is just really important. So.
And then recently you and I talked about making the scores and things available, and sort of how does that work? And that's a whole new territory. And that's something I think a lot of musicians are interested in. Like we can, I don't actually know what a Nashville lead sheet is, but I imagine it's like,
It looks like
yeah, where it's like, capo 2, CGA, that kind of situation. I think that's what a lot of folk musicians, tend to work from. And maybe that's the way that we initially share our music with each other and with bandmates and things. But then you have these choral sheets. You have the orchestral piece of it. You have the folk band piece of it, and I love the idea of something like this growing and being replicated. And I know you do too, because you expanded and replicated from another idea.
Yeah, well, and there's so many just really cool community choirs around the world and around our country. And each one kind of has its own mission and flavor. But I'm happy to share my own arrangement scores with people. You can't publish them because that would run into legal problems, but I'm happy to share them. And somebody, I don't know, emailed me asking for a score from some choir out east a few weeks ago, so I just sent it to her. And so resource-wise, that's something that is available too.
I think another, so sorry.
I was going to say, one of the key components, though, for us as a choir, because we have a limited time, one of the key components has been something that we stole from, I can't think of her name now, that songwriter from Minneapolis who came down and we sang with her. And she introduced us to the entire concept of these things called practice tracks, which are absolutely transformative for us. So Jean and I sit in a little room and we record all the guitar for the songs in the arrangement that we're going to do it in, basically. Maybe we don't include a band solo or whatever, but we record it the way, sometimes it's too fast, but oops.
Sorry, guys.
But we record it, and then Jean and John and sometimes other people record all of the harmonies, and we put those out. So wonderful to meet you. I look forward to being in touch with you. Take care.
Take care.
So that helps the choir, and we send out their specific part is elevated in the mix so that they can hear their part really well, and then people can practice and learn the songs much more easily that way.
And I know that Jean also records, each of the different vocal parts. There's the guitar part and then the vocal parts too. And as I can read music, but I can read music. I like to say it like that because I'm like that's a C, and then I'm like, and I'm not even though I am in a folk band, I don't think I'm the best harmonizer in the world. My confidence about that ebbs and flows, right? Maybe a lot of people feel that way, and so to have these tracks that I can memorize as if I'm singing alto or something, it's really, really, I think it's really, really helpful.
Thanks for coming.
I love the question about how is the folk machine pragmatically made. I think the other piece of it that's really important for people to understand is sort of the philosophical thing that each of you bring to your part of it. Someone else, I think, would really benefit from understanding Nicole's positionality working with kids and Jean's positionality of understanding that what's good for the kids is good for the group, right? That full accessibility.
I wish we just approached so many things that way.
Yeah.
I think we've figured something out here.
Yeah. Like how, I hope that people that are watching this are, I think, gaining even more than just an understanding of how something like this works, but there's that philosophical approach is really, really important. Do we have another question?
We do have a question in the back.
Yay,
yeah.
Great.
Hi, everyone. So from your experience, what would you say can be the key or somewhat surprising elements of editing, the editing process of writing the song and putting it together? Something that's very personal, your personal experience, or something small that you felt like this was it. Yeah, thank you.
If I could start.
Yes.
So I don't really identify as a songwriter myself. I work as an arranger, and this fall we're doing an unusual project, and one thing that it has involved is taking songs that were written that are A, old, and B, were written in another language and trying to make an English version that we can use now. And so it's really fun for me to work with Alma as an experienced songwriter, because I'll look at these words and I'll be like, oh my gosh, this is the most unsingable thing I've ever heard in the world. And Alma would be like, oh yeah, don't worry, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that's amazing. So it's very surprising to me. I tend to have this very literal view of I can't sing this, but then other people are good at editing things like that and making it into something that actually flows.
Yeah, and it's the songwriting part, the collaborative part, you've got to walk a very fine line between mentoring and taking over. But there are times when you really another person's ideas, another person's feedback, or another person's way of looking at a particular subject makes you go, oh, wow, I never would have thought of it that way. And suddenly you have all this extra room that you didn't have before where you can, so that collaborative piece becomes very important in that sort of opening up of a subject. But then when you get to the point where you're really trying to tighten it in and bring a song together, I call this the Sam Knutson School of Merciless Editing. And Sam Knutson is another one of our local heroes, and he's a dear friend of the machine and of mine too. But Sam edits his songs down to like where he's whittling bone. He'll bring it down to just the essence of something, and allowing that kind of, then it requires a person who's listening to fill in those gaps and to put the meat back on a few of the bones, Yeah. So when you're opening it up wide, then you have to be prepared to bring it in tightly, and doing that collaboratively, being able to say, okay, you had this idea, or you used this word, or this little phrase, and I want to include that little phrase there because that seems to really be powerful. And so being able to kind of incorporate, and using rhyming dictionaries, say, we phrased it that way, but that's a lot of words to be able to cram into this little tiny space, so we're going to have to phrase it this way, and really, just being able to kind of flex and bend it a little bit as you go. It's a very, thank you for coming. Enjoy the rest of the festival. It's, that has been an education as well. But it is a critical part of it is to be able to take somebody else's ideas, and especially like, has been said, people who've never written songs before, and being able to make them feel empowered, and all of a sudden have them say, now I'm going to write 80 songs, and that's great.
I love the way you phrased the question, because you asked about what is surprising. And I think if you are listening deeply when you're working with others, if something surprises you or makes you curious, you lean into that.
Yep.
And ask another question or help pull that out of them. And that's usually where the magic happens, I think.
Yeah.
I think for me, I would answer that question that everyone here has talked about conversation as a part of the editing process, right? And Nicole and I drive back and forth between band practice, and we'll talk about the songs that we're working on. And I'll just being able to tell her, so I'm in the ether of writing a song. I may not even really know what it's about, right? But having to explain it to my friend on a 20-minute drive in a few minutes, I get clarity from that. And so I haven't actually maybe shared the song yet, because maybe the song is mushy and gushy and isn't really ready for prime time at band practice. But maybe just being forced to summarize it in some way, or even just guess at what it might be about. I think, and that's not maybe true for everyone. Some people go into songwriting and they're like, I'm writing a song about this. I start with sort of poetry and a nebulous sort of ether. And so that it's really helpful to me to be in conversation. I want to make sure that we give you guys enough time to get off to the next part of the festival, but yeah. I would love it if Jean would talk a little bit in closing about this project that they're embarking on this year as Family Folk Machine, because it's just an incredible and important project for this particular time.
Yeah, you bet. We have started a project called Dreaming Iowa, and we're going to be working on this all year, so this fall and next spring, and it encompasses several things. We started working on this like 6 or 7 years ago, got interrupted by COVID, and then the project has changed its nature a little bit over all that time. But part of it has to do with sort of reminding ourselves, and again with what's best for the children, of all the ways that Iowa has in the past been a groundbreaker in sort of human rights and civil rights. Iowa has a really proud history on many different fronts of being a leader in saying, well, no, we really we should treat all people fairly here. And that's something that we just really need to remind ourselves
Something we really
about.
miss.
Yeah. And so that's one side of it. Another side of it is looking back, say, 100 years ago in Iowa, and just recognizing what a multicultural place it was at that time and still is now, and celebrating some of those different immigrant streams to Iowa, especially focused on the past. And then other things about sort of Iowa nature, Iowa maybe some unsung heroes, and then the sort of looking forward to the dreaming part, like what do we want for Iowa in the future? So all these things kind of swirling together, which is a never-ending topic, but we're at least going to spend 2 concerts on it. Thanks, Katie.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an amazing project, and every time the Family Folk Machine sets out to conquer a big, beautiful dream, something gorgeous happens. So for those of you who have not gone to a Family Folk Machine concert, I really encourage you to get out and go to one of those concerts. You can sit next to me and cry if you're a crier. And I just want to thank all of you for being with us today in conversation, and thank you, Alma. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Jean.
Thanks so much.
And I hope this program helps other people understand what an incredible endeavor this is. And maybe some people watching or listening will say, hey, I want to do this in my community too. So thank you for being here, everybody. Happy Iowa City Songwriters Festival. And thank you for being at the library today.